Alpha Betas is a good show, until you click on episode 2. Then it all just goes downhill. Like, the animation is nice, and the concept of the show is great. Having video games being the main focal point allows for a ton of creativity, with thousands of games out there that can be parodied. However, what majorly brings Alpha Betas down for me is the rushed plot, confusing characters, and all the inconsistencies in the show. The story being told desperately needed additional runtime, which is most evident with the jar and jump from the pilot to episode 2, but we'll get into that later. So, in case you haven't caught on yet, this is going to spoil the entire show. So, despite my watching guide starting and ending at the pilot, watch the rest of the show, including the extras. Okay, let's start with episode 1. This is Alpha Team is my favorite episode. It introduces the world, characters, their dynamics, and the premise seamlessly. I especially find the opener amazing. Within 2 minutes and 15 seconds, we are clearly showed the skills and traits of Alpha Team. A core conflict is hinted between characters, and fans of Vanos get a cheeky reference with his first line in the show.
Alright! Nope, that's how you know a video's starting. Alright!
It's fast and it gets to the point, which is the entire episode in a nutshell. It's so fast that it's easy to miss how they forgot to put Mason's sniper scope on his gun until he has to use it. And I didn't notice that until my 5th rewatch. So that's how good the episode is. But nitpicking aside, it is generally a great watch. And they even got Chris Parnell, the voice actor of Cyril from Archer. Before we move on to the decline of the season, I want to go over 2 things that will come up later. First, who is Alpha Team? Alpha Team includes the leader Eddie, who's the team tryhard, explosions expert Buck, who's a hothead, transportation director / expert Tommy, who's a self-serving liar, and finally, ballistics expert and marksman Mason. Second, Allison, despite being the head of the energy division, doesn't seem to have the authority to fire Alpha Team, resulting in her using elaborate schemes to get what she wants. I say this because she has another team called Bravo Team, whose specific goal is to ensure Alpha Team fails in their mission. Tubuck Chuck, his henchmen, and even the Jane, are all members of Bravo Team in disguise. These 2 things will be expanded on later. So, without wasting any more time, let's move on to episode 2, One of Us is Getting Cancelled. If you are binge watching the show, the transition from episode 1 to 2 is incredibly jarring. So much happens off screen, and the best the writers can do is tell us instead of show us. I think the best way I can describe this feeling is discussing how Alpha Team got replaced by Bravo Team. So in episode 1, or in an attempt to get rid of Alpha Team, Allison creates Bravo Team, places them into Redhead intervention so they can hold all the NPCs hostage, which causes one of their biggest games to lose millions of players. She is willingly and knowingly putting America and Area 51 in jeopardy just to get what she wants. This act alone is what says she doesn't have enough power to fire Alpha Team on the spot. So, what do the writers do with this? They have Allison fire Alpha Team and replace them with Bravo Team off screen. What the fuck? Like, can't you see how confusing this is? If she had the ability to do this, then why didn't she do it, I don't know, in the opener of the pilot? Seriously, she was literally putting her entire country at risk just because she couldn't deal with 4 people. This all screams of lazy writing to me, and it makes a character that is supposed to be tough, smart, and relentlessly driven become petty, ignorant, and a psychopath. What sucks though is that this isn't the only character that gets ruined due to lazy writing, since the entire season is plagued with it. However, let's actually go back to the start of the episode.
Mason, what's taking so long?
You can't rush bagel bites, Buck.
That's the entire point of bagel bites, Mason. Yep.
Hey Brian, did you get some writing tips from the Paradise PD crew while you were over there? Because that joke and the many ones like that to come are just Oscar worthy. Okay, back on topic. So let's skip this bit and continue where we get introduced to my personal favorite character, Spunk. Spunk is terrible. However, I'm going to cover Spunk more later. Let's focus on how he introduces our 3 new self-inserts. Spunk explains to us with some heavy exposition, mind you, that during this 18-month time gap, Tommy Mason and Buck became influencers. He doesn't explain what made them all successful. We don't get to see a journey to stardom. We are just told that they are influencers now, and they're successful at it, so deal with it. Personally, I think we need to see a montage of what made them famous in the first place, because I don't see Tommy and Buck able to get famous with TikTok and OnlyFans, since their traits don't really gel with it. On the other hand, Tyler and Brian could succeed on these platforms, hence them being self-inserts. Marcel literally streams on YouTube, so I don't think I have to go deeper into that one. The main reason for this change in their characters though, is so we can have Alpha Team's reason to reunite and save America, being so one of them doesn't get cancelled. So, firstly, I want to say that the entire logic to go back to Allison so they don't get cancelled is incredibly stupid. Since the Energy Division is a classified program, they can't tell anyone about it, so it couldn't be used to change the people's perspective of them, if they even save the world. So this is a complete waste of time for them. Secondly, this was the villain's plan to get to meet Alpha Team to make his proposition to them. Okay, you know what? We'll save this for later, because it's that idiotic and I may combust before we get the video done. So, I personally think a cancelled plotline isn't a good conflict to choose, since it doesn't feel like it has any stakes on the plot of the show. There's no tension from it, and since it isn't explored in depth, the 3 characters that this mainly affects seem to have nothing to do in the season. Hell, they barely use their unique skills throughout the entire show. The writers could have written them out if they wanted to, since the only role they now fulfill is to tell jokes and just force drama. Which is not what you really want from 3 of the 4 main protagonists. So, it's time to move on to the final MC. In this section, it's going to require me to clock in, so we'll be right back. Okay, where were we? Oh right, Eddie. Eddie takes center stage compared to the other 3 leads, due to him having an entire plotline revolved around him. Eddie wanting revenge on Allison for firing Alpha Team makes sense, because we see throughout the pilot how passionate he is about Alpha Team. It's the only plotline done mostly right. However, it had to be resolved within 4 episodes, hence it feeling rushed as well. Despite all of this, Eddie was the only character I enjoyed throughout the show, since the plot seems to be built around him in particular, whilst the other characters aren't. To illustrate this further, I want to discuss a character I didn't want to talk about just yet, but since we're moving on to episode 3, and he plays a major role within it, let's discuss Spunk. Spunk is prime example of a plot device, more specifically Deus Ex Machina. Within the final 3 episodes of the season, Spunk saves Alpha Team a total of 6 times, twice each episode. Spunk defeats the Nogra zombie. Spunk saves Tommy from a zombie virus. Spunk installs a hyperdrive into the ship. Spunk gets a vehicle when Alpha Team is stranded. Spunk distracts the two interviewees and finally takes out the bodyguard of the kill switch. All of these conflicts are just ended unceremoniously by one character, which just removes all tension from the show. I know our characters aren't going to fail, since Spunk is going to randomly appear and save the day.
Woo! We're very lucky Conklin and Morales broke our fall.
Even luckier that Spunk here created the perfect diversion.
It's dissatisfying. Spunk is a crutch that the writers rely on to move the story forward due to only have earned 44 minutes of animation through their Kickstarter. Spunk is relied on so often to conclude plots that Tommy, Mason and Buck become neglected. Instead of having Spunk resolve all these conflicts, why not use the core skills of Alpha Team? Have Eddie, Mason and Buck duke it out with the Nogra zombie. Perhaps the giant eye on his shoulder needs to be blown up by Buck so it's open for Mason to shoot it. Then for the spaceship segment, don't even include Spunk. Instead have Tommy's driving skills be able to successfully invade the attackers until they crash land onto the planet. Finally, for that elevator scene, have Buck go on a long-winded tangent to distract the interviewers. It'd be a neat way to tie in Buck's interview into the season as well. Anyways, I'm going to stop myself before I go into a tangent as well. So, boiling it all down, Spunk's inclusion as a plot device only hinders the characters instead of progressing them. He actively removes our cast from scenes that could grow them or lead to key character moments, therefore making 3 characters who already don't have anything to do even more useless. Which is why Tommy, Mason and Buck could be written out of the show entirely. So, now that we've discussed what I don't like about Spunk, I want to discuss a question that Spunk made me think about. If AI as capable as Spunk exists in this world, then why doesn't Allison make her Strikeforce team out of AI? Spunk is seemingly able to interact with anything within the games. These AIs seem to be way more efficient than Alpha Team, and would be subservient to Allison. It's only benefits for her. But hey, I'm not a psychopath. I play Dead by Daylight. Wait, no, that just makes me a masochist. Anyways, I'm going to try and speed this up a bit. I don't really want to talk about the episodes overall, just want to do a deep dive into the narrative. Also, I don't want to get copyright striked. So let's jump straight into episode 4. Episode 4 starts with a very stupid mistake. Allison says that Alpha Team only have 19 hours till they lose control of the entire US military, triggering the unraveling of society as we know it. However, this is entirely wrong.
By our calculations, you have less than 4 days to secure the game and save the world.
All right, we'll do it under 2 conditions.
First, we need to wrap this up sooner. In like, I don't know, just picking a number here, 71 hours?
Why?
If you could just go ahead and put a ticking clock on 71 hours somewhere for us on a screen, that would be really appreciated.
Okay, fine.
Now, this episode introduces the major divide between Eddie and the rest of Alpha Team. The moral dilemma that tears the team apart, and it's Eddie killing an NPC that Tommy, Mason and Buck felt was a human. So, I want to start and say that this dilemma could have been saved with one line said in episode 2. During the debrief that Steven gives, have him mention that Allison sent a team before Alpha Team to try and stop the hack, but they got trapped within the game. If this was said in episode 2, then the moral ambiguity would provide genuine reasoning for the rest of Alpha Team to be angry with Eddie, especially since he killed Captain Whaler due to jealousy. Speaking of jealousy, let's stop with my fanfiction and go back to what's in the episode. All of the praise behind Captain Whaler is out of the blue. This is a guy that Alpha Team just met. The only reasons they have to praise him is because he has snacks and a car. Is this meant to be commentary on social hierarchy? Or is it just a bad excuse to cause the divide between Alpha Team? I think the organic dialogue between the characters will help decide that for you.
We're gonna die! I'm almost willing to die if it's alongside Captain Whaler.
Lines like this feel heavily forced, and it just shows that the only purpose these three characters serve is to strengthen Vanos's. I mean, it does make sense that Vanos has the highest priority to the writers compared to the other leads. Anyways, after an argument that should have never happened, our four heroes reach the big bad of the season. Alien boss? Jesus Christ. Okay. Above all else, media strives to create memorable villains. If the villain isn't able to define a character's story, then why are they even there? Similarly, if you don't even take the time to pull a name from a name generator, then why should I care about them? Alien Boss is the worst character in this show, hands down. He's got so many issues, like the one he's going to cause to my script if I don't give him a name. So from now on, Alien Boss is named Dan. Dan creates a ton of problems for the plot that we'll go over. But first, let's discuss his scheme. Allison kidnapped his wife, so his end goal is to kill Allison and shut down the government. Therefore, he enlists a CIA coder to hack 6 games into one mega game. Then he creates the blackmail on Alpha Team in order to coerce them into coming back to the Energy Division, so he can meet them all and propose to them about shutting down the Energy Division. This is because only 5 people are able to access the vault that holds the kill switch, that being Allison and the 4 members of Alpha Team. Now that that's out of the way, let's discuss how brain dead Dan's plan is. For starters, this plan hinges on a lot of external factors that are out of Dan's control. One discussed back in episode 2. So, as discussed before, Tommy, Mason and Buck have no reason to come back to the Energy Division, as none of their work will be recognized by the public. Furthermore, they have no way of knowing if the woman who backstabbed them would help them in any way. Additionally, Tommy, Mason and Buck were the ones who got Eddie to come back to the Energy Division. Therefore, if all 3 weren't oblivious, then they would have never gotten Eddie and would never reunite Alpha Team. This means that Dan would never be able to meet them to propose his offer. Secondly, the coder hired made the game actually able to kill Alpha Team. Whether this was by mistake or not, I'm unsure, but still placing the group of people you want into a scenario where they have a high likelihood of dying when you take into account that they haven't actually done any of these sorts of missions for 18 months is pretty stupid for your master plan. Next, this plan brings up the question of why does the members of Alpha Team have clearance to the kill switch? I want you to keep in mind that Allison is the head of the Energy Division, and she hates Alpha Team, so why would she give them the capability to shut down the entire division? Even more importantly, why does Alpha Team still have clearance after the 18 months they were fired? Shouldn't it have been taken away or something? You know what, fine. Let's just brush this all aside and agree that there's a dumb reason that solves everything or gets explained in the comics. So let's see how the plan turns out. Cover that. Shouldn't Spunk be on their phones? He was on the phone in... who cares? Yada, yada... okay, in the vault. Wait, how the heck are you here?
First, I morphed into a huge pile of dog shit.
Oh, how convenient.
And then, on the way in, Tommy stepped on me and...
We don't need a full montage.
This one joke destroys everything. So, he's a shapeshifter who appears to be able to turn into anything he wants. Now, since there's no explanation of the limitations of his power, if we go by a website like the Superhero Wiki, then there's a lot shapeshifting can do. But I want to ask, why doesn't Dan be the one who breaks into the vault? He could shapeshift into any of the 5 accessible users and just go in. He could turn into a flea or potentially play a game of prop hunt to get into the vault. There's a ton he could do alone, which makes you wonder why he would rely on external factors at all, especially since human weapons can't kill him.
I can't believe I gave you the only gun in the universe that can kill me. So short-sighted.
So he's practically invincible. So why does he go through all the trouble? Oh, right, lazy lad. Anyways, Dan is terrible, forgettable, and just weakens other characters. The writers must have been drunk around a campfire when they came up with him, otherwise they probably would have at least gave him a proper name. So, I want to discuss one last thing with episode 5, and that's Ruby's speech. It is practically directed only at Eddie, once again making the other 3 characters not relevant. But since it's like this, then why do Tommy and Buck have the same change of heart as Eddie? There's no reason for them to side with what Ruby's saying, because they can't really think Eddie is a murderer. Anyways, we end the show with Allison giving Alpha Team their jobs back. But, like, why though? She literally owes them nothing. And Eddie had intentions to kill her. And they all nearly shut down the entire US military by themselves. Why would these actions be rewarded with a job?
You guys went behind my back and teamed up with an overpowered shape-shifting alien who could have done the job himself way easier. Yous almost shut down the government and my division, and for those actions yous deserve a job, because despite me offering help in stopping the cancel video, you decided your selfish reasons were more important than the entire US continent. Good job.
To wrap things up, Alphabet has disappointed me. There is a ton of potential within this show, but limited runtime and lazy writing squandered it. If the creators took the approach of a show like Hell of a Boss and kept the story going through spaced out episodes, then I believe we would have had a truly great show. There's a lot of changes I'd personally make to the plot, which I'll list on screen now. However, the show's done, and now it will most likely be forever narratively flawed.